Hi, I'm Kim McLeod.
And I'm Gerald Richards, and welcome to Soul Kind Connections. We hope you enjoy our conversation today.
Hello.
Hello.
How are
Episode
you,
two,
Gerald?
right?
Episode
Episode two?
2.
Episode two. Episode two. I'm good. I'm good.
Today we're going to be talking about kindness.
Kindness. Kindness.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, I suppose, what does kindness mean to you?
I was going to ask you the same question. You beat me to the punch. It's interesting. I think it really is I don't know if I have a definition for it. I know there is a definition for it, right? Because there's a definition for it. But at least for me, I always think of it as how you treat people how you want to be treated, right? And your kindness is the sort of how you want to be in the world.
Yeah.
And how you want to treat people in the world. So do you want to be kind to people? So kindness is about treating people well, treating people with respect, treating people with dignity and understanding and getting to know people rather than it being, rather than what the world is now, which we won't talk about. But,
Yeah.
Oh, we will talk about it, but we will talk about it.
We will talk about it. We're going to talk about
get
it.
there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But I remember being told a while ago by a coach and we at work at a job I had, and we were doing a lot of work. We worked with a lot of people, and my coach said, people say, because someone said, "Oh, everyone should be nice," and she's like, "No. Niceness is performative. Like niceness is people when they're nice is fake." Right. It can be fake. You say, oh, so-and-so's a nice guy. Are they a nice guy? Oh, so that's really nice. It's sort of like the thing you say to placate people. Whereas kindness is a deep, deep sort of relational piece to being with people and being around people. And if you're going to be kind to someone, that means you are actually caring about that person and wanting to know about that person and wanting to care about that person's existence.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think? What does it mean to you?
So, I think that kindness is the language of my soul.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Because I think that if you accept that you are a soul living in a human body, and that we are all souls living in human bodies, if that, that might not be everyone's definition or understanding of their view of the world, and that's absolutely fine.
That's fine.
But it's mine. And I think that is the default setting as a soul, is to be kind, because it is then about how you connect with someone else, how you show up in the world for someone else. So I think that if we are awake enough to recognise that we might have more than just the sort of physical 3D reality of the world, then that's our sort of default setting, actually. And it's just when people are sort of so closed off to that, then they're maybe not so kind in the world. So I think kindness is actually our default setting. If we were able to just tune in enough and just go, okay, let's just go inside and see. Yeah.
Right. Because kids, right, we're born, and children are kind automatically, right? When they are not kind, it's what they sort of learned from parents,
it's
friends, the world.
What actually comes. So I think that's it. I think we're born with kindness as our sort of default setting, and we just somewhere along the line the software gets a little bit corrupted for some people.
It all falls up. It all gets corrupted. All burns out, right? It all changes.
Yeah, but I think like all software, you can be upgraded. Yeah. So that's. But it's such a strong value for me.
Yeah.
And I think about where it comes from. I think for me, I mean, it's so embedded in me. Is growing up as well, my mum was very kind.
Yeah.
I grew up in quite a kind household. Like my aunt that I was very close to, and my mum in particular, I would say were really kind people, and you saw how they interacted with others, how they interacted with the world, what, my mum, I mean, she was like, so as well as like people, but it was animals. We were the home for waifs and strays of,
Okay.
like, so
Humans, children, humans, animals, all
children,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. It was just, there was always an open door. And and we had lots of animals that nobody else seemed to want, that just appeared and we had for a while and looked
Okay.
after. And so I think that's the bit, I grew up in that space, which is then quite a loving, welcoming, supportive, environment to be in.
Yeah.
And I just saw, I think that's it. I just saw that as being kind, and how, if when you grow up maybe as the default setting, as I say, but you actually see that embodied in your immediate environment of how people interact with others,
Yeah.
then, that's I think where it came from for me initially.
That's interesting.
What
I,
what
it,
about what about you, if you think about your earlier kind of days then?
well, it's making me think of growing up and thinking about it's interesting because the first thing that came to my mind was I was like, I think my grandmother, my family, they were kind, but it also felt like they were feeling obligated to be kind. I mean, they grew up in
Okay.
the world in the world in America with all the deep race relations and things that they had
Mm-hmm.
to deal with. So I think kindness should have been the default, but kindness became sort of like you don't know who to be kind to, and you
Okay.
have to figure out who to be kind to. And I think that sort of I feel like it'd be interesting. I'd ask my sister that question about that, about how she. I'd be interesting to ask her about kindness because I don't think it was the default for our house. It's not
Yep.
that the people weren't good and the people I felt loved and I felt cared for, but I
Yep.
think I had to learn kindness and what that meant on my own as
Okay.
I
Yep.
entered into the world and did sort of went to school and did things and got to know people. And I think I got to learn it because if I think of myself as a young Gerald, sweet, but I don't know about kind because I probably people would say you weren't the kindest person on the planet, and I think I had to learn it
Right.
and I had
Yep.
to figure out what that meant for myself, and that took a bit. I think as you sort of enter in the world and figure out and receive kindness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so I think I went off, so I got a scholarship to go to private school. And my friends and my best friend to this day, one of my best friends to this day, I've known her for 40 years. But her parents, to me, I think were the first people that were kind to me.
Right.
Like I went to her house and the first time and they were like, "Are you hungry? Do you want something? Tell us about you." And I remember sitting here going like, "This is like what do you thinking about what do you want?" There's an ulterior motive in this. And I think that's how I was
All
raised
right.
with thinking
Yeah.
kindness, that there's an
People are out.
ulterior motive if someone is kind to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought there was and sort of realizing if you're really kind, there's no ulterior motive, right? You
Mm-hmm.
are kind to be kind,
Yeah.
right? You're not
Yeah.
expecting
Yeah.
anything back.
Yeah.
You are being
Yeah.
kind to be kind. And that took me a long time to sort of understand when people were, and like for them, that they were, I like think of them as my second parents because
Yeah.
they really did teach me how to sort of to be kind and that there was no motive and they were always really loving and really sweet to me and really wonderful to me. So that was an interesting thing to learn later on.
Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe that's a good kind of example of maybe the difference that we had then in growing up, because
Yeah.
it was just that was it. People would come to the house and there was always like, who's, what, you want something to eat, do you want dinner, how are you doing, have you got a friend you want to bring home, have you got a stray animal you want looked after, if you've got,
Yeah.
you know so it was, so I suppose I grew up kind of thinking that that's what the default was, and that people
Yeah.
didn't do it then just to get something from you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you learn that. Then you come in. So I've come into the world where then you realise that not everybody is then being kind to you without expecting something else in return.
That's right.
And you would see it a lot. I suppose I probably noticed it more when I sort of came into the business world. Um, and you would go and you would have a chat with somebody, and I would just be going, "Oh, just let's go and have a cup of tea," and somebody would be going, "Well, there's a ulterior reason to get together because I want to sell you something," and I would like,
Yeah.
"No, I just wanted to
I just want
reach
to
out and
talk to
connect,"
you.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's interesting, like where our it's that thing about where our beliefs start from and our values
Yes.
begin, and if we don't question it, then we still just kind of like navigate through life with that as the background. So
Yeah. It is making me think. I have a my sister has a best friend, and they are still best friends to this day.
mhm.
And if there was any kind that she was, I think, if anything, when I think back to my family, because in essence, she was in our house all the time, and they were best friends, and they were always together. And then how my grandmother sort of almost adopted her. She had parents, she had mom and everything, and but how she was sort of accepted and loved, and that I think was a form of kindness that I didn't really understand
Mhm.
until I became that sort of thing about picking up strays or whatever, right? And I'm my cousin,
Yeah,
and I consider her a cousin, right? She's family, not stray, but that person, that there are times you welcome someone in, but there almost has to be another impetus for that,
yeah,
right? There has to be. She was my sister's best friend, so of course
yeah,
she was going to be in our house, right?
yeah.
But to your point of that being like you just inviting someone into your house or say, "Hey, I'll take care of it," was like, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah. And I think what I saw then, and there's because there's some stuff I want to talk about today around kindness. What I saw was I was able probably to pass that on to my children.
Yeah,
So both Callum and Kirsten, my son and my daughter, definitely very kind people. And
yeah,
Callum, as a young boy, he was the one who invited. So our house was the gathering house.
yeah.
There was constantly people in the house, and he was the one who was the linchpin, I suppose, in a whole group of friends.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of stuff that he did about how he just conducted himself with people. So and things that we learned about like later on, that he invited the kids that were probably they weren't the popular kids. They were
Yeah.
the ones who were they were the outliers that maybe didn't have so many friends, that weren't invited to things. He brought them in to groups,
See, that's
and that,
yeah,
and it was, so you saw this, and you also saw how he stood up, um excuse me, he stood up against um another friend one time who he said wasn't being kind to
yeah.
somebody, and stood up and said, "I don't like that, and I'm not going to be friends with you if you keep doing that." And he was probably 10 years old.
That see, you taught him well. You and
So
Claire taught him well. If he's got at that age
yeah,
in
yeah,
this right in a situation of school, where I think school is where that sort of school, primary school, high school,
yeah, yeah,
is where the script flips for kids and kindness becomes not the thing you do because you're trying to be popular or
yeah,
you want to be. So for him to do it
yeah,
and
yeah,
that be his default at all times is amazing to me. That's amazing to me.
yeah, yeah. So he was an absolutely such a kind boy. And
Yeah.
sadly for our listeners, I'm going to explain that he died when he was 12, from meningitis. So it was very suddenly to be there
Yeah.
and then gone from our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was so hard, not just for us, but for his friends.
Yeah.
And this big group of friends who were all, who again, they only, a lot of them only knew each other because of Callum being the one who brought them all together.
Yeah.
So it was hard for them to, about just suddenly coping with one of your best friends is there and the next minute he's gone,
It's
because
gone.
it was
Yeah.
so sudden. But what I wanted to share was the impact of the amount of kindness that we received as a family after his death.
Nice. Nice.
Um, because I think this is the thing that people then think about, how, like, how do you be kind? And we have so many examples of things that how people were really kind to us. And when you've got a major event goes on with somebody, and when there's grief and there's loss, and people often don't know what to do or what to say, I just wanted to share some things because it might
Yeah,
then
please.
help people think about how can you be kind in a situation, with somebody. So, I mean, one of the first things I would say is that there were the people who didn't turn away when I walked down the street because they didn't know what to say and they were scared that they were going to upset me.
Yeah.
So the ones who actually would see me and come and say, hello, how are you? And give me a hug and just say, just like, I'm really sorry. And they would often be in tears and upset. But that's that immediate kindness, that being able to actually just be brave enough just to speak to the person. Because the thing is that when you're in that grief state, nothing anybody else is going to say is going to make you any worse. And that's what people worry about, that I'm going to
Yeah.
say something and it's going, oh my goodness, I'm going to upset you. Well, somebody's upset already, but your kindness of actually just being able to talk and say hello or just how are you.
Yeah.
One of the kind of really the kind of first things that people did, and then we had people who just showed up at the door, people that we obviously we knew that were close to. I mean, the house was always really busy and people brought practical things, but the, there was someone left a box of cakes on the doorstep because obviously maybe they just didn't want to come in. They maybe didn't
Yeah.
feel that they could come in, but they left a box of cakes on the
They
doorstep, and
wanted
you
to
opened
do
the
something for you. Right.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like you open that and you go, oh, somebody's thinking of you, that so you've got, whether it's you've got the energy that's sent out, you've got the love that's sent out, you're maybe feeling that as well, at an energetic level in your body. But there was those things, and it was and it was such a crazy time when you're trying to sort of navigate, through all of this. And all of Callum's friends came to the house. They all came, and they came as a group, and they came, and they were all going, we want to do something. We need to. So they were all, we need to do something. What can we do? We want to do
Yeah.
something. And in that sort of group, which was, there were lovely, lovely young men and women who were all around 13. It was because it was only a few weeks short of Callum's 13th birthday, and they decided that could we do a fundraiser for the meningitis charity, and how about we do it on his birthday? How about we do a big party sort of thing, and we could do lots of things for what would have been Callum's 13th birthday. And it was like, yep, this is a great idea, because it gave the kids a focus. It gave them something to do. And they were so lost and struggling. This was like, what can we do? We can,
Yeah.
and we were missing them because, then you were going, our house was always full of people, and I'm suddenly going, well, we need them. So it was a kindness to ourselves as well, actually bringing them in. And
Yeah.
the school got involved, and and it was like, right, okay, we're going to use the school, and we're going to have a big sort of fundraiser. And the kids were off with all these amazing ideas about what they were going to do. And they sat and we all talked about what Callum loved, all the things that he, that he just loved. So he loved, he was a gamer, so he loved playing the PlayStation and, like his games with his friends. He loved music. And they said, okay, who was his favourite bands? And the Fratellis were absolutely his top band. He loved watching Ready Steady Cook, which was a programme that used to be on after school, where
Okay. Yeah.
the chefs got together and they were handed a bag of ingredients and they just had to make something. And his favourite chef on TV was Gino Da Campo,
Okay.
right, the Italian chef that you might have aware of.
Mm.
And there was other things, and so all of suddenly the kids are all going, right, what if we could get some stuff, what if we could get music? And there was a whole list of other bands and other people that he loved, and it was like, what if we could get in touch with all these people and tell them about Callum and ask them if they could maybe donate something, and we could have an auction, and we could have a raffle, and we could do all these things.
Yeah.
And so that was it for 6 weeks. It was this mad kind of chaos going on with them contacting people and reaching out and trying to kind of get things organised for this big party we were going to have. Um, and I mean, there's so many amazing things happened. Uh, one of the big stories, right, that I think for me is the Fratellis, we said, were our Callum's favourite band. And all the kids were like, we really need to get to Fratelli. So they were sending messages on all their social media streams and everything. And just nothing was happening because they kept going, oh, we've heard from so-and-so. Somebody sent this. We're gathering all these things. And they were like, we really want to get to Fratelli's. Now, it turns out this was just a couple of days before the party. We still hadn't heard anything. We thought, just it's not going to happen. It's just not going to be. So let it go. My friend calls me up and said, you're not going to believe this, Kim. I've just found out that I work beside Baz, who's the bass player. I work beside his sister. And I've just told her the story about what has been going on and what all the kids have been trying to do. She's phoned her brother. He's just went, oh my goodness, we didn't realise. And he wants to meet you. Can you go to their studios tomorrow? Because they've got a studio in Glasgow. Right? And I'm like, okay, right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. We got to go.
Right. I turn up, I get to the studio. I mean, the guys were they're absolutely amazing. I mean, beautiful, beautiful, kind human beings, right? This is the thing. Invite me in. Sinclair couldn't come because we were getting all sorts of people were arriving and donating stuff. And I mean, it was like, the house was chaos. And I was like, right, so I come in. And the first thing that they say, we're so sorry, because then they realised they went and looked and there's all these messages of everybody trying to get to them. And then there was just to tell us about Callum. Right? Now, Callum was learning to play the guitar and he was learning to play Chelsea Dagger, their famous anthem that most people will know, on his guitar just before he died. We had been at the Fratelli's gigs. He was buried in his Fratelli's t-shirt. You know, I mean, it was like, there was all this stuff. So I'm telling them all about how much their music, I mean, he loved music, but I mean, he really loved their music, and their music had inspired him to learn the guitar and what he was doing, you know. And they were sitting there, they were like just like quite emotional, obviously, hearing all this. And then they said, right, okay, we want to give you some things that you can use for your fundraiser. And John hands me his white Fender Telecaster guitar that he had. Yep. So if you go and look at the video for Chelsea Dagger, this is the guitar that he played, because it's got Chelsea Dagger and it's all this words written on it. I want you to have this, and he puts it in this beautiful antique guitar case. Baz goes and brings through the original artwork for the album cover that they've got in this big frame, and they sign it. You want you have this, and Mince. That's so Baz, John, and Mince. Mince is the drummer.
Okay. Of course he is.
Of course he is. Brings the drum skin, and they sign it, and they said, right, take these. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is just like so much. And they said, we want to meet his friends, so after all this, we could bring all his friends to the studio and we'll meet, we'd love to meet the other kids. So I'm then leaving. It's like, okay, I need to go. I've got to go, and my car's parked outside. Can you help me out to stuff for the car? I've got to go and pick my mum up she's coming in the bus, and I'm, because it's just, get outside and my car isn't there. You know, that way I'm like, oh my God, my car's not there. And I'm standing looking like, what's happened? I just can't. And up until this point, I had held it together.
And
then
I could see
that was it. It was just like,
I could see it.
I am standing there, tears streaming, don't know what to do. And they're like, it's all right, come in, we'll fix it. They took me back inside. I'm sobbing on John's shoulder. Mince is away making tea. It's like, Baz is on the phone. They find out that my car had been impounded because I'd kind of parked on a bus stop. So it had been like basically towed. They organised their chauffeur to come and collect me, to take all the stuff. To take me to the pound to go and get my car. They paid for my car to come out of the pound. They gave me, so they were paying for the cost. They were telling me, keep the chauffeur for the weekend if you need it, whatever. It's like, got back up the road. I mean, I'm getting back home and I'm like, you're not going to believe what's just happened. This has just been incredible. And then I'm walking into the house with all this stuff going, oh my goodness, how can we turn up to a school fundraiser tomorrow with all of this? I mean, this is huge, right? So, and so we told them at the fundraiser that we had it, but we said, we can't just like auction this today, because this is really worth a lot, and
A
it's
lot.
really important. So we actually ended up holding it into the house for a year, and we did it the
Uh,
following year, and we had a big
yeah. A
raffle
big
with the
fundraiser.
meningitis charity and stuff. So
Yeah.
we did it over a
Nice.
long time. But also the guys, the Fratellis, went on. They were starting to record their second album. That was why they were in the studio, and they then dedicated that album to Callum.
Oh, you make me cry. That's really that's kindness, right?
That's kindness.
That's kindness. That's kindness. That's
I mean,
kindness.
there, and that's the thing, is that, so yes, they were, they were doing really well as a band. They were, but they didn't know us. They had no connection to, and you see that what they did, and then we did take the kids to the studio. I've got photographs where we took the kids to the studio, like, after the new year, and we went in, and the one thing that I noticed, so, Sinclair and I, and excuse me, our daughter Kirsten as well, and I'm looking over, and I had taken a photograph of Callum and some stuff that I'd written to them the day that I had gone, and it was sitting in the corner.
Oh, see,
You know, and that's the thing, it's that just, and all the people that we reached out to, it wasn't for me, it wasn't about oh, can we get your stuff? Right? It wasn't about send me
yeah.
stuff. It was about, I want you to know the impact that you had on my son's life,
Oh, my
because
son.
he loved the stuff that you did. So I want you to know that whatever you were doing, so, whether it was the music and all the other bands that we contacted, or, and actually Gino DeCampo reached out and phoned me. He phoned the house and heard,
Wow.
and
Wow.
just, again, it wasn't his agent. It was like he
No,
picked,
it was
answered the
him.
phone. Yeah, and he's saying, like, I'm so sorry, tell me about Callum, and just how can I help? What can I do? It was just, and then he sent us some stuff. He sent us some books and stuff. And I met him. It was a couple of years later that we actually met him. And he was just, again, such a kind person. And he phoned after the event to find out how things had gone. And, it's that. So
Yeah.
there's something in that. There was something in that they were really kind people. They were, and they
Yes.
were
Touched
well
by a
known.
kind person, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is just like that. But there was, there's so many other stories. I would have a whole hour just telling you all the other stories of things, because when we did the follow-up year of doing the raffle then with the Fratelli stuff, the Fratelli's fans knew, because the guys were sharing out that this raffle was happening, and people could buy tickets, and we were doing all that, and we were doing a big event back in the school for what would have been his 14th birthday, right? So it was like,
Yeah.
so that was the thing. The fans got involved. There was a particular chap who was the fact that, because the Fratellis had a competition set up for fans to win some of their goodies by sending in some stuff around music and entering. There was a chap who lived in the States, whose name's Rafe, who entered the competition, particularly, and then won the stuff and got in touch with us. So the stuff was sent from Scotland over to the States to him, got in touch with us. He said, the only reason I entered it was because I wanted to send this back to you for you to use for your raffle.
Oh, wow.
He was a huge
That's
Fratellis fan.
yeah.
There was other fans who then got in touch with us and gave us their memorabilia, things that they had collected, because they connected in with this, like they
Yeah.
wanted to do something, and here was this being done in another fan's memory, and but real acts of kindness of people donating stuff, getting in touch with us. But the impact of this is what I really want people to understand. I was in the darkest place of my life ever after Callum's death. Right? The world had, from being somebody who, and as you know me now, Gerald, you know me, like, bright and colourful, right? That's how I
Yeah.
always was, right? The world was black and bleak. There was no colour in it for a
Yeah.
long time. The impact of these acts of kindness created slivers of light that just came into my world.
Yeah.
Every time someone did something, it lifted me. It
Yeah.
was fuel for my soul. And this is why I talk about it being a soul thing. It was fuel that helped me go on. It changed, it gave me hope. it was the stuff that really just sparked the world is a good place. We've had something terrible happen to us, but the
Yeah.
world's a good place. The world is full of good people.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that it still holds so strong for me now, even when we see a lot of stuff in the world that's not so kind.
That's not so nice. Yeah. But it shows how kindness is easy, right?
Yeah.
Being kind, for people to be kind to you in that moment with those things of not knowing your son. First off,
Yeah.
sorry, thank you for sharing that. That's what I'm thinking, like, thank you for sharing that with me, but with everybody, because that's right, that, and sharing that, because I think is one, how kind you are, because I think sharing that is an act of kindness, so people can see and hear how that works, but also showing how all these people rallied around you and your son, and he touched so many people without even knowing them.
Yeah.
Right. Kindness is right. Kindness is, I just think kindness is easy. Kindness costs nothing.
Yeah.
To do. Right.
Yeah.
Everyone can be kind, and just shows, right, people being kind not because they have to be, but because they want to be, and they're like, you know what? Here's something I can do for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That requires nothing of me to do, and lifts you up, right? And lifts you
Absolutely.
out of
Yeah.
that place and does
Yeah.
that for you. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. That's amazing.
And it doesn't have to be, I mean, I think sometimes people think about kindness as donating money to charity, right? Because that's the thing, you know. So how how can you be? Well, yeah, you donate some money to charity. It doesn't, and yes, that can be a kind act to
Yeah.
help, you know, something out, but it's the, you know, it's not often. I think the acts of kindness that you do for someone are really simple and small, and they don't
Yeah.
require money. I mean, some of this, I think one of the simplest things that you can do for them to be kind is to smile at them.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Just smile. Just smile. Like I'm,
Yeah.
and this is because I was raised in a house full of women. I'm a very, I hold the door open for people. Women, men,
Yeah.
I just hold the door open for people. I remember holding the door open for a woman, and she's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Go ahead." And then like 3 other people came in, and I was like, "I'm not. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm coming in. It's not like I'm not going to come in. I'm here. I'm holding the door." And you could just see people, and I smiled because I'm a naturally smiley person anyway, so I was just like smiling, and but those acts of kindness don't have to be huge.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually better, I think, if they are small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they accumulate, and that's back to that. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to smile at somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And that smile might be something that makes a huge difference to that person that day.
Exactly.
You never know. And
You
and it's
never
a
know.
like, I suppose, a little bit to what we were talking about in our last episode about grace.
Yeah.
Because you never know what someone else is going through. Right? You don't know what's going on inside that person's head. So you walk towards somebody, and I do smile at people all the time, and I say hello to people on the street. And sometimes you can walk towards somebody smiling, and they're kind of looking to see if there's somebody else that's not you.
Smiling at me? Why are you smiling at me? Why are you smiling at me?
But yeah, it makes such a difference. And the thing is that it creates a ripple. Kindness creates a ripple. And the minute that you are kind to somebody, there is more likelihood that that person is going to do something for someone else. So you hold the door open for somebody and they walk through, they are more likely to then hold the door open for somebody else. They might be more inclined to like, you know, especially when we're driving, you know, like let somebody out at a junction where, you know, it's just like, rather than just, you know, be raging all the time. And those things are ripples. I have a wonderful author friend. I don't know if anybody who's listening to me, hopefully some people might have heard of him. Dr. David Hamilton is the absolute epitome of kindness, but he writes a lot and speaks a lot about kindness. Yeah. And he speaks about it from a scientific perspective, about what it actually does for our body, about how it actually it's good for our, not only our mental well-being, but physical well-being. It improves your heart health. It improves so many things. And I would just suggest to everybody, go and have a look at what David is doing. and tons of these videos. We'll probably find a little link in the show notes somewhere for if you
Yeah.
want to check that out. But David talks a lot around this, the kind of science of what happens and the impact that we have and the ripples of those acts of kindness going out. And he says they go out like 6 times beyond you for one act of kindness.
Yeah. Like a
And
ripple in a pond, right?
Yeah, you throw a stone in a pond and just you look at that, and you see, well, there's where it goes. And this is the thing about intentional kindness. And if you could be intentionally kind, how much good can we put into the world? But just being, holding the door open for somebody, smiling at somebody, giving somebody a kind word, helping out that little bit more maybe when you can.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's just that's the thing for me. I go, do you know what? If I can make a difference in the world, then this is why for me kindness is such a core thing.
Yeah. Look at you. See? It's interesting because it makes me think, and this is the sad part about sometimes when people are kind, it happens around when people die.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
It does.
Instead of it happening just all the time. Right. It doesn't have to. You don't have to wait someone dies. You do it all the time, and you're kind to people all the time. You're kind to people. You listen to. Listening to people is kindness. Just sitting around listening to people, right? I always say it's like, right, you can sit down and listen to somebody and not comment is kindness, right? Because a lot of times people are like, I don't need you to comment. I just need to be listened to. And listening to someone is kindness. But it is sad that because I think as you were talking about Callum, I was thinking about when my grandmother died. Mm-hmm. And I tell people the story all the time because it actually really is why these two men are still two of my best friends to this day. I was in San Francisco, and my grandmother passed away. And then my mom passed away. And they passed away within 6 months of each other. Yeah. Right? One, my grandmother, completely unexpected. My mother was expected. My mother had HIV, and so she passed away. So and at that time, there weren't the drugs, so we were expecting that to happen. My grandmother passed away. It was a complete surprise. So that twin and two of the people who meant the world to, like, they were my center. My grandmother was my center, right? And that was my center, my mom, and they were gone. And I remember I'd flown back to San Francisco, and my friend Albert and Matt called me. And they're like, "Are you back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm back." And it's a Friday night. And they're like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, yeah, as you could say, right? I don't know what to say. I'm like, "I'm all right. I'm doing it." They're like, "Okay, well, what are you doing now?" And I'm like, "I'm just going to sit in the house. I'm going to cook some dinner. I'm going to go to bed. I'm just going to chill out." And they were like, "Well, we don't want you to be alone." And I was like, "No, don't. I was like, I don't need this. Don't come at me. I don't need it.
Don't come at me with the kindness.
Don't come at me with this, right? I don't need it. I don't need it." And they were like, "Listen, we're coming to get you. You will meet us at this bar in about an hour. If you do not meet us at this bar, we will come to get you. There is no option here. You need to be around people and you need to be with us. So why don't you do that?" And I, was like, I think I started to cry. But very quiet, as a man, I'm very quiet. And I said, "Okay." And I went out and I met them. And granted, we went on a 3-day bender. So that was, but it was actually what I needed, right? With two people who I cared about and loved very much to just sort of take care of me for an entire weekend. And somewhat get my mind off of it, but somewhat not think about it. And somewhat, I think there was one point I did burst into tears, right? Because I was, right, the impact of it. But it was also just that, I think, and that act of kindness. And they've been kind to me, right? And I think it's sort of the time when you need almost, at times, I think there almost needs to be a release of things like kindness to happen for people to then realize I can be kind all the time.
Yeah.
Because they've been kind, they were kind to me before, they've been kind to me after, we've been kind to each other, we've been friends for 30 years or so. So, right, we've got that kindness thing. But it is when it happens when someone dies.
Yeah.
And I wish it was more of, back to it being the default state.
Yeah.
That you do it all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A smile, a listen, a hug, right?
And I think, we do react, I think, generally as a species,
Mm-hmm.
human, soul kind,
Yeah.
um, when big things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. Is that those are those are the sort of pattern interrupters that take us out of our day to day, doing the shopping, going to work, doing whatever it is, and
Yeah.
oh goodness, yeah, all right, now we need to step up. So they are. It's understandable why things then people try and
A kind
gravitate
of.
towards you for those. It's that's. Um, but yeah, I think it is just if we really valued kindness as this, how successful you are in the world, in terms of how kind that you
How
are in
kind
the
you are.
world.
Yeah. Imagine how different the world would be
Yeah,
if
exactly.
that was the measure of success, was how
Yep.
kind you are in the world and how you move through the world with kindness. That became the measure of success, right?
Yep.
About how kind are you, not how good a person are you, right?
No.
I think
No.
because I think the two are not saying they're mutually exclusive, but you can be a kind person and not be a good person. I think it's
All the
harder
time.
all the time, right? I think it's harder to be, but I
Mm-hmm.
think to be a kind person, because I think people try to be good people all the time, but it's like I don't think you really have to try to be kind. It's back to the thing about a smile,
Yeah.
right? A wave, hug,
Yeah.
or not even a hug, right? Because
Yeah.
personal space, but
I know.
that sort of.
I don't do that. I hug everybody. Unfortunately, people just
I
you just get
know.
to realize. Sorry,
I
incoming.
do. I hug you. It always feels weird when I don't hug somebody. I'm like, why are we not hugging? What's up? What's up with you? What's going on? But that
Yeah.
became I think to your point, that became the measure of how we
Mm-hmm.
measured success. And if
Mm-hmm.
that became the measure of how we measure how good a person is,
Yeah.
like that's the measure of goodness, right? Of like, how kind are you to people? How kind are you to people? How kind are you to animals? How kind are you to the planet?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How kind are you to people you don't know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
But I think there's another bit I wanted to sort of bring up because I think the other thing for me is, and I've said this, you and I had a conversation about this a while ago, but where I said kindness isn't fluffy.
Same.
So
Yes, we did. We did. Yes, kindness isn't fluffy.
kindness doesn't necessarily have to be fluffy. So there's these, because sometimes kindness is, for me, it's the line in the sand that says, this is beyond what I would deem to be acceptable in my world based on my values.
Yeah.
And if so being kind is then not necessarily accepting everything that you see or being that is done, or not speaking out against something, so that there's I suppose there's this sort of strange way where you're going, don't say anything at all unless you can say something nice, right? Like, or be
Yeah.
kind. But being kind is sometimes actually just saying that is unacceptable. That goes beyond the levels. And we talked a little bit about that last time as well,
Yeah.
just about when it is time to step up. So kindness isn't always, I think, this sort of, people think, oh well, it's lovely,
It's
you're really,
sweet.
it's cute, it's
right?
sweet.
Yeah.
And I don't think it always is.
No, I'd
Sometimes it
agree with
is.
that.
And
I'd
like I
agree with
said
that.
with Callum, it's like he then said with his friend, that is not acceptable. I don't like how you're treating that other person. That was him being kind, because what he didn't rage at his friend, he didn't, like go onto social media with, like with people would do now, oh, that person's
No,
terrible,
yeah.
but taking the time to say, you know what, I don't like what you're doing,
Yeah.
that's not that, the impact of what you're doing is this, I don't like the impact that's having on that other person, therefore, here we are. So that's
Yeah.
this. So it's not always just about,
It's not always fluffy.
yeah, not
Yeah.
always fluffy.
Because think about it, right? That effect of that to that person probably
Mm-hmm.
changed how he thought about, like, oh, I shouldn't
Yeah,
act this way. I shouldn't be
yeah,
this way. Why am I being
yeah,
to start to think about
yeah,
himself for himself? Why am I being this way?
yeah,
Why am I not liking this person? What is that? Right?
yeah,
I it's making me think as you're talking about the kindness of sometimes being kind is telling your friend off.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Is telling your friend you're not
Yeah.
being a good person. What he did, right? You're not
Yeah.
being a good person right now, or I have a problem with the way you treat people, or I have a right. And it was there's a point where, and this is probably a stretch, and people will say this is probably a very big stretch. Sometimes when you break up with someone, it's a kindness,
Yes.
right? If we are not compatible, it is better that we break up than if we stay together, right? People stay together, and I think it's like I'm staying together for kids or for whatever it is, and I don't think that's not a kindness to anybody. It's not a kindness to yourself, but it's not a kindness to other people. It's not a kindness to your family. It's not a kindness. It's not a kindness to
No.
that person. And so that is it's harsh, but it's back to it not being fluffy. That sometimes the best thing you can do is to let that person go.
Yeah.
Right, or to tell that person, you know what, this isn't gonna work out.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and you're like, oh wow, that was really hurtful. But in the end, it's like, you know what, this was the best thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And probably it feels selfish because it's a kindness more for yourself
Mm-hmm.
than the other person. But I think this is the thing, right? We need to learn to be kind to ourselves.
Oh yes.
as much as being kind to other people, right? It's back to this kindness not being fluffy. Something being kind to yourself is not fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like something being kind to yourself is you being selfish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you drawing the line in the sand.
Yeah.
Of being,
Yeah.
I'm not going to, this is what I value, and there's things are crossing the line of my values. So for me to be kind to myself, I have to take myself out of the situation. But to be kind to you, I'm going to tell you that this is bothering me, so I don't just ghost you and disappear off the face of the earth that you're not doing these things, right? I don't do that. Right, I'm going to do that. It's making me think of people I've ghosted over time, which I don't do very much, but I've done once or twice. So I'm like, I can't talk to that person no more.
Yeah,
yeah.
But we're human, right? And amongst all, here's the reality, right? We're human, and we don't always get it right.
Yeah. No.
And sometimes being kind then is actually acknowledging that, okay, I might not have handled that situation or dealt with that person as well as I could. But being kind to yourself is also going, okay, well, what do you do? I'll try and do better next time. And maybe you can make it, maybe you make amends and maybe you don't. But maybe it's just about going, okay, I'll try to be better next time.
Yeah, I'll try to be better next time. So apologies if I've ghosted you in the past. I apologize.
Yeah, we're right here. We're apologising to anybody
we're apologising for anybody we've ghosted.
Anybody that who might have felt that we weren't kind to them in the past.
We weren't kind to you, right? And I can think of situations. I think definitely when I was younger, where I was not kind to people, right? And I think, and as a product of my upbringing, as a product of how I thought that's how things worked and what I should do, and it's like I think that's in the end, it's like trying to have a default state of kindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has been sort of my answer to that as I get older, of it being like, you know, how do you be kind? But you know what? It's back to that. It costs me nothing to be kind to people. It costs me nothing. It costs me nothing to let you hold the door open for you, or to let you go first.
Yep.
Right. Or to let you do it, right? Or or smile at you, or a laugh or a hug. It costs me nothing. It costs you nothing. And like I said, it brightens that person. You will have no idea what that act of kindness does to someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it's the sort of fluffy kind of kindness, or if it's the non-fluffy kind of kindness. What you've done for that person, right? Back to the ripple effects of what it is.
Yeah. 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 I think it's quite fascinating. So another thing I wanted to kind of come into was then about kindness in business.
Are those mutually exclusive? No, I don't think so. Right, no.
But that's the thing, right? That's so many people, just look at me sometimes if I've got horns coming out of my head when I talk about this. It's like, because, here's the whole, I suppose, if you were looking, you take a step back, you look at the business world, and people would generally say, "Oh, that's not a kind environment. It's all about getting one over somebody else. About it's a competitive space. It's like
maximizing profit, right?
Yep, yep. It's like you're fired. It's like it's it's all of that." And I so it's been something that when I went self-employed, and my husband and I run our publishing business. We said, right, we want this as part of our this was part of our culture, that kindness had to sit throughout that, right? So there's some practical things that we did. Now the business network that I'm running, yeah, it's absolutely it's the reason
Yeah.
most people would join, because it's like, being kind
Yeah.
and actually helping out how you can do it. But I've had conversations with people who have said, it's like, but how could you be kind? So is that, and this was where it came up to, all right, so if you're being kind in your business, or you're donating some money to charity then. And that was the only way that they
They thought to
thought
be.
that kindness and business could possibly ever have be seen in the same space, as that you donated some of your profits or some of your money to charity.
Well, that's depressing. That's
Isn't
depressing. If that's the only way you can be kind to people. Be kind to your employees.
Yep. Yep. And I've been looking a lot around this notion of the kindness economy.
Okay.
And there's a lady called Mary Portis, who some people might have heard of. She's done lots of stuff around the retail world, and she was talking about this years ago. In fact, 5 years ago, because I've been back listening to some of her podcast stuff about the kindness economy, and it being about it was really about looking after each other. So it's looking after the planet, right? Mm-hmm. For goodness me, we really need to look after them. We're not getting another one, so
no.
Right. No. So about looking after the planet, about looking after your customers, about looking after your supply chain, about looking after your employees, about looking after yourself. Yeah. And just thinking about it's that thing around looking at those things through the eyes of, how do I be kind in this situation with these people, considering all of these aspects, so that no one, I suppose it's that bit, is that no one then is out of alignment. No one is getting, shafted or like just done over for, we'll get the make sure that they're working for less than, like minimum wage, or we're getting all these resources that are coming from that we don't really care about what happens, or we don't care about where they've come from, and we don't care about what that happens afterwards. This is the only thing I'm caring about. It's how much money I'm going to make from this. The higher the profit, the better it is.
Yeah.
And if you step back and you go, okay, well, what if you were looking at this through the eyes of kindness? Where does that actually, what things can you change? What things are really important to you? Do you look after the people, the planet, the animals, the environment, and if it's those are the things, really, isn't it? It's people, planet, animals, environment. Those are environment.
That's it, right? It's interesting because I think about, right, I've spent pretty much almost my entire career working in the nonprofit space and charity space.
Yep.
In the US and in the UK. And there's a point where you would think that kindness would be interwoven through that business, through that mindset, right? You work a lot of times, right? You were working to help people, you were working to support people, you were working to do things. And I'm always amazed. I've been in situations where you're like, the person running this organization is not a kind person, or the people in this job are not kind people, or they're not kind to the people that work for them. They're not how they think about the people that they are there to support and to provide services for. And I think, to your point of it, like, you could start it with the best of passion, and then it sort of almost corrupts people because they get into that business mindset of like, well, it's business, and we have to do this, and I have to be stern, and I have to be this, instead of thinking through, like, you know what, if you actually treat people that work, they would say the work for you, but really the people that work with you. Right? They work with you. Don't care if you're CEO or you're where you are in the chain, they are still working with you. They are your colleagues, right? They are not people who work for you, right? They're people who work with you. Kind of people that work with you. Mm-hmm. And the amount of good things that happen because through work, productivity, treating people well, making sure they're happy with what they're doing, it pays dividends. And it's interesting that people don't, it sort of has become this thing of like, I need to exploit people to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how I exploit people and make money is to donate money to charity. Really? Come on.
Yeah.
Or that because I'm in the nonprofit space, charity space, you see people are like, well, I do this, so I can't be mean because I work in charity and I help children or I do these things. And you realize I'm like, you're not being a kind person. And if you
Yeah.
really want to go into this, kindness sometimes is you stepping away or you looking at yourself and going, am I being the best person I can be at this
Yeah.
point to the
Yeah.
people that work with me?
Yeah.
To the people I support, to the people I'm helping, how kind of, and it's this organization being kind to, right, the back to the supply chain, right, or
Yeah.
stakeholders, or however you want to say it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? What's the kindness thing? It's like kindness economy, right, of people thinking through.
Yeah.
If you center it on kindness and how well you can treat people, I think the dividends that come are amazing.
Yeah.
There's at my door. I have to go get my door. They came right
You
now.
go get your
I'll
door. Oh, yeah, and I suppose while Gerald's away, he can probably still hear me because he's got his earphones in. Yeah, so it doesn't mean then that we don't make profit or generate, a surplus if you're working in a charity sector, but it's not at the expense of all of these other aspects. And I think if we could, if we could actually just explore that more, then yeah, the world could be a very different place, So, and he's back. Hello.
Kindness is answering the door with a smile on your face to the service person, to the person delivering your package, going, "Thank you very much for delivering my
Have
package."
a nice day. Hope you have
in the middle of my podcast. Thank you very much for delivering my package. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's just if there was just this shift of perspective and what success really means.
Yeah.
And that we're soul kind, because that's the thing, it's like, because if we actually go, do you know what? We're all trying to do the best we can, and we're all souls, and we're actually trying to help each other and help the planet, and not be seen to have to be, better than somebody else because of, what kind of car you've got, how much money you've got in the bank, or how, that actually, okay, what impact have you had in the world by being kind to people?
What impact? What's your legacy, right? What's the legacy you want people? What do you want to be remembered for? Right? Do you want to be remembered for being an or do you want to be remembered for being a kind person?
Yeah.
Right. It's making me think of Star Trek. Probably both one of our favorite shows.
We love about Star Trek.
Remember there's an episode in The Next Generation where they talk about we've all seen it. Well, you've seen it. Where they revived the three people. It was early in it where they revived the three people were floating. They had been frozen because they had been sick, but then they had been jettisoned into space, and they saved them. And one of them was this rich guy who talked about, well, what's the point of it? Just accumulating wealth. And like Picard says, we moved beyond that when we realized it was better to help each other than it was to accumulate things. I remember when he said that, and I was like, God, what a world what the universe would be like if we actually moved beyond that and thought like the kind thing is helping each other. Accumulating things is not the measure of success. How we're treating each other is the measure of success. Yeah. Right? And how well we do that, and what are the dividends from that of us treating each other that well. And imagine if we did that.
Yep.
How far we would, right? Back to the big, right? People being, like when the whole show about the weirdness of the fact that we have billionaires on the planet that are just hoarding their money like dragons. Right. 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 And not helping people. And just hoarding money. I'm like, what is that? You have enough money to help to provide for you, your kids, your grandkids, and their grandkids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you still have money, and you have still made a conscious decision not to help people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not to be kind to people, and to be kind to the world, and be kind to the universe. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. So how, are you paying your employees a true living wage, or are you,
I don't want to pay y'all. I just need to make more and more money. right? I don't want to pay you enough money so that you can live comfortably and you can live well and you can take care of your family and your kids. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna make all the money. I remember I said that to a friend of mine. I said, like, we're living in this time where all these billionaires are like dragons. You know, the whole thing, dragons hoard all the gold, and that's what we're living in, this time of these people just hoarding things. And then being
Yep.
like, well, look at how successful I am. I'm like, I don't think you're really that successful. You got stuff. That's great. Right. I don't, you know, that doesn't
Yeah.
make you a good person. That doesn't make you a good person having all that stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you weird. As we see, it makes them weird. Right. They do weird stuff to their faces and all the
Yep.
stuff that they do. Right. So it's.
But unfortunately, the thing is that we're living in a world still at this point where these are this is what, because people go, this is what success is. This is where, this is what I aspire to be or to accumulate or to get. That's where we're just keep perpetuating that. And I'm inspired enough by, there are some people who are speaking about different things that you go, okay, there's a bit of hope. There's a bit of hope coming.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to us, hopefully you're thinking, how can I be kind to somebody today? That's it. Yeah. Just think about that. How can I be kind to somebody today?
Yeah. That's it. Come from a different, as we've said before, from a different perspective, a different life, a different point of view. Just, how can I be kind to somebody today?
How can I be kind? That smile I give to somebody might brighten their day, and they will hand that off to someone else, and they will do something kind to someone else. Right? Just start the kindness chain. Just start a chain.
Yep. That's
right?
it. Yeah.
Of kindness. That's it.
And we'll look forward to seeing what can come from it. That was
That's
it.
Right.
It would be, lovely to see. There we are, our little tuppence worth thrown in.
Right, here we go. Kindness. Be kind. Just be. Write your shirt. Just be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind. There we are. So
right.
Thank you, Gerald. I have loved, as always.
Thank you, Kim. As always. I love talking to you. It's great. It makes my day. I can now have the rest of my day and be like, la 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 la.
So hopefully you'll join us for our next episode.
All right. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Gerald. Okay. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a good day.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation. And if you did, it would be great if you could leave us a 5-star review and maybe even share this with someone else that you think might enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you join us next week for our next Soul Kind Connections conversation. Bye.